Riek Machar was detained in South Africa for a long time. And in Juba, we hear reports from SPLM-IO officials that Riek Machar is not allowed to travel outside South Sudan. Hello everyone, welcome again, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel for those of you who have not subscribed. So this video is about Dr. Riek Machar. Many of you know he's an influential figure in the South Sudanese political arena. He's been a liberation icon. He's been involved in disagreements within the movement. He's been vice president for a long time. He's also been involved in the South Sudanese civil war. But I have noticed one thing, and this is something I've discussed with some of my colleagues, whether they are from the Nuer tribe or from Jim or other ethnic groups, is this, that Riek somehow believes that if he says the truth and presents facts, then the people within South Sudan, in the region and internationally, will see the truth. He behaves as if he's a priest or a professor presenting facts to students. But in politics, that sometimes you have to look at things based on the realities you see. When SPLM-IO and SPLM in government under President Salva Kiir signed the agreement in 2015, we saw what happened between 2015 and 2018. The back and forth, the refusal to sign the agreement, the way IGAD was talking to them condescendingly, and then they were forced, they were threatened, and they signed the agreement, but then they went back to war, and then they signed it again in 2018. We saw that there's bad blood. There's no love lost between the two men. So when they came back in 2018 to start the government, the unity government, we expected that these differences will continue to exist. And there will always be obstacles to any success of the agreement. And we've seen time and again that the president is not interested, or maybe he doesn't want to implement the agreement, because he sees himself as having the power. Regional leaders cannot force him to implement the agreement. They can advise him, they can say, have goodwill to complete the agreement, all the provisions, but they cannot force him. He's their colleague. Regardless of the condescending way sometimes they act towards him, they cannot force him. So SPLM-IO has no political leverage. Riek Machar was detained in South Africa for a long time. And in Juba, we hear reports from SPLM-IO officials that Riek Machar is not allowed to travel outside South Sudan. So SPLM-IO has no political leverage. And that is something they have to notice. If they have to write to foreign leaders, regional leaders, international leaders, peace partners, or troika countries to condition President Kiir to accept or to make sure that all the provisions of the agreement are signed, then that shows political disempowerment, that the SPLM-IO is politically impotent. It doesn't have the power to force the president or regional leaders to do what they want. Now we see the Tumaini initiative. It was supposed to be sort of an addendum. And the SPLM officials are saying that they were promised that there was just to be an add-on to the revitalized peace agreement. It wasn't supposed to be a standalone agreement. Now we see that's not the case. It's almost renegotiating the revitalized peace agreement. So the only thing SPLM-IO and Riek Machar can do is to write a letter and withdraw. That's powerlessness. That means you don't have a voice, you don't have a political leverage. It's like you're becoming politically irrelevant. So the peace agreement is a good thing. It's something fundamental to the peace of South Sudan. But the political realities in the country are also different. So the idea that you will have to wait until all the provisions of the agreements are implemented before anything happens, before elections happen, before South Sudanese embark on national development, is utopian. It is utopian. It's magical thinking. So up to now, you've seen that President Kiir is not going to change, and no one outside South Sudan is going to force him to change, to implement the agreement. If he can remove the Minister of Defense, which, based on the agreement, was supposed to be from SPLM-IO, But you couldn't do anything. All you could do was complain. That's all SPLM-IO could do. But nothing happened, President Kiir. No regional leaders, no peace partners, no mediators, no SPLM-IO, no South Sudanese can force him to do anything. What does that show you? It shows you have to change the way you expect to be relevant in South Sudan. The agreement should not be the only way in which you are supposed to be relevant in South Sudan. That's why I'm saying you have to do a political makeover. You have to think beyond the agreement. But if you're calling now for an extension and that the elections should not happen, because if the elections happen, then the agreement is nullified and Kiir can do whatever he wants. If you don't go for elections, he's going to say the elections were called and you did not go. And we all know the elections will not be free and fair. That's all we know. They will not be free and fair for the next 10, 20 years. That we know. But the idea that you have this idealized version of the reality in South Sudan, that all the provisions must be implemented before anything happens, that when they're all implemented, then we'll now go for elections. Then now we can embark on national development. Then now we can ride it. It's just utopian. Think as politicians on how you can bring peace and development and stability and inter-ethnic relations outside the revitalized peace agreement. Because if you stake all your future on the revitalized peace agreement and it doesn't work out, it's going to destabilize your own party. And it's also going to jeopardize you as a political entity. You have to be relevant beyond the revitalized peace agreement.